Artists, today I'm going to show you how to turn our armature of our ice cream cone into an actual sculpture, and we're going to be using plaster wraps. These plaster wraps need to stay dry until you are ready to use them. So you want to make sure that you have a dry area at your table, so that way when you are getting your plaster wraps, they're not getting too wet. And then you want to make sure that the tray that you have your water on is somewhere where we can all reach. You also want to make sure that you have your placemat down. This is a very messy project, so we want to make sure that we can keep our tables as clean as possible. So in order to activate a plaster strip, you actually have to dip it into warm water. So we are going to be dipping these strips into warm water, and we are going to be attaching them right on top of our armature. We do not need to attach the plaster wraps to our cone, especially down here where our name is. We just want to cover all of our newspaper that we used as our armature of our ice cream scoops, and we want to cover those up. So you need to have warm water. And when you activate, you are going to dip, and then you actually need to take two fingers and kind of squeegee the extra off. You do not want this to be soaking wet. And I'm going to start at the top of my ice cream, and you are just going to layer that plaster strip right on top of your armature, and you can smooth it down into the creases of your newspaper. Make sure that your fingers aren't soaking wet when you grab a new piece. Grab a piece right on top so that you get minimal water on any of the other pieces. Once again, we dip it into the warm water. We are going to squeegee that extra water off, and we can just continue adding and layering right on top of our armature. We can smooth these plaster wraps right on top of each other. They layer really well. We only need one layer on our ice cream. So I'm going to continue to move around. Remember, my fingers are not soaking wet when I'm grabbing a new piece of plaster, squeegeeing the extra, and I am just covering all of the scoop of the ice cream that I made with the newspaper. And I am careful to smooth it down, to overlap, and I'm going to continue to rotate my ice cream cone around as I add. Now remember, we have a wet area and a dry area. We don't want to get water in our dry area, and we only want to activate the dry pieces as wet as soon as we're using them. So we only activate one piece at a time. And you will see that we are starting to cover our scoops in a way that we are going to be able to paint these. This plaster wrap will dry hard, so this will be a nice heavy ice cream cone that you will be able to use as a sculpture. So once again, I'm just making sure that I got all my areas. I'm smoothing it on, and I'm starting from the top of my ice cream and working my way down to the bottom. So I'm going to continue. Once you get down towards the bottom of your ice cream scoops, you are actually going to attach that plaster strip right to your cardboard cone. So I am layering my plaster to the scoop, and I am adhering it right to that cone. So you're going to be able to get your overlap where you wanted your ice cream to look like it was scooped off of the edge of the cone, and we are going to be able to secure it by pushing that plaster right onto the cardboard. Once you are done completely wrapping your armature of the newspaper in the plaster wraps, these are going to be very fragile and very heavy. And this actually has to dry. We want to make sure that you can still see your name on your cone. Notice that I did not completely wrap the plaster onto the cone shape, just enough to secure that newspaper there. And I am going to take this to the drying rack and put it in a location that it can dry standing up.